Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to do Q&A, and we're also going to present a couple topics from some of our coaches. We're going to get started with McKenzie. She's going to be talking about kind of post-race recovery, what to expect. If you have any questions, be it topic related or else or anything else, please just type it in the chat. But we're just going to kind of go around and hopefully cover something that you might find useful for some of your future races. McKenzie.
Awesome. Thank you. And congrats everyone today on the racing and all that. That was a fun event at BPN and the CapTex 10K. So awesome job. So the other day after 17.3 Galveston, I posted that I couldn't sleep. So I was up, I think at 3 or 4 in the morning, and several of you all reached out and said, I can't sleep either every time after a race. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so think of all of the reasons you will not be able to sleep. And we do that on one day during the races. It's like everything that is so hard on our body, we do during a race and recovery. And so even for half Ironmans, marathons, any race that we think about, what happens is our bodies go through so much stress during the event. So we get cortisol levels, which are a chemical that releases in our body as a response to stress. These levels get so out of whack during our races, and that cortisol actually helps produce melatonin. And so that's a reason why you can't sleep afterwards, because our cortisol levels are so high just from the race and all the stress. And so on top of that, we get a huge adrenaline bump. As you're racing all throughout the race, you've got a lot of excitement, a lot of adrenaline pumping into your veins, and it also takes a very hard and long time for us to calm down and relax after that. So not to mention, we also take caffeine, we're dehydrated. And so what can we do after a race that can ensure that we sleep well? I've often found the first night is just rough. It's a rough night of sleep. You're probably going to feel sore and stiff. You're dehydrated, etc. So the first and foremost thing that you can do is, as soon as you finish crossing the finish line within 30 minutes to an hour, you really want to replenish your body with protein and carbohydrates. Our glycogen levels have been depleted throughout the entire race. And so even those high glycemic carbohydrates are perfect and fine at this time. That's the thing of the sugary, the cookies, everything that you want. It's not ideal, but it will restore our glycogen levels back as much as they can during that time. So we break a lot of our muscle fibers during the event. And so it's really important to make sure for the next 24 to 48 hours, you are consuming protein and carbohydrates. We really want to focus on the protein. Those amino acids in the protein help rebuild the muscles and help repair them after the race. And so making sure that after the race, you get some protein, carbohydrates. I've often found that we deplete a lot of our micronutrients because we're not eating throughout the entire event. So I have always craved a smoothie afterwards. And I was reading and doing some research that we actually do crave that because we're missing a lot of the vitamins that are in our everyday food. So if you could do a smoothie, like a fruit smoothie afterwards, go to a Jamba Juice, whatever, add in some protein and a fruit smoothie, that would be an excellent post-race recovery meal. You just want to get something that you can eat and that you're satisfied with. I know a lot of things kind of taste gross after that. So just make sure you're getting something that replenishes your body. We also are incredibly dehydrated. So electrolytes and water right after will greatly benefit restoring our bodies with hydration. And then I know it's hard to imagine sometimes, but really the next day, if you can get in some light recovery work, whether that is just a long walk. I mentioned on our stories, we neglect a lot of our families during this time. So even if you go on a long walk with your spouse, getting those muscles just working back again so that they're able to repair is very, very helpful. 48 to 24 to 48 hours, making sure we get our carbs and protein. And then I have found that like a Tylenol PM or some melatonin in addition on the first night of the race, after the race, is really helpful. I know we don't love to take a lot of medicines and all that, but that is one I could highly recommend, melatonin and or ibuprofen before you go to sleep, just to ease the body pains a little bit. And then obviously, if you can, an Epsom salt bath does wonders. Get in there and soak for 15 to 20 minutes if you can. And you got to fill up like the Epsom salt. Like it should be like a cup and a half. I didn't know this. I was just like barely pouring it in. Fill it up, fill your bathtub up, and just soak in that the next day if you can. That's also very, very helpful. And you have to think too, like we had a lot of mental stimulation through the races as well. You're thinking, you're trying to navigate and think through everything. And so your body's just on high alert. So just as the next night, I've typically found the night of the race is hard to sleep. The next night I get a good night's sleep, but allow yourself about 9 to 10 hours if you can in the bed. We often don't sleep that entire time, but if you can start winding down and give yourself 9 to 10 hours, you'll probably sleep for 7.5, 8, which will put you right back on the track to recovery. So if there's any questions or anything, I love this kind of stuff. So if you need help or questions or anything, please let us know.
Awesome. Yeah, I can reiterate what McKenzie said. I never take sleep aid, but the one time I do take sleep aid is when after races. That's the only way I'm going to go to sleep. And then I'd always tried so many recovery modalities after Ironmans. I actually did one season where I did 5 Ironmans. And so I was really like struggling, like testing different things of how could I quickly get back on track. And the Epsom salts bath was number one. So I would literally do an Epsom salts bath that night, the next morning, the next day, and then of course, moving, you're going to actually feel better. So I'd always go and do a light spin, a light swim the next 2-3 days in a row. And then really good nutrition. You know, I know it's whatever you can tolerate, whatever sounds good. But for me, if I ate well after the race and I didn't splurge too much, I actually did feel better sooner. So I'd highly recommend that. So coaches, before we go on to our next topic, I had a really good one and I want to give you all some this question now to think about, and then we're going to come back because I think this one's going to be massively helpful for all of you. It's what strategies do you use on race morning to mentally prepare, deal with nerves, and especially if you feel like you have a lot of pressure with this family racing and you don't want to let people down, what helps you? So we're going to come back to that. First, let's go to Katie. Katie, you had a topic for tonight?
Yeah, actually, it's something that I have actually just recently been struggling with. And so I was trying to think of some stuff to share. And this is also, I learned the hard way. I mean, for years, I learned the hard way with training when sick and recovery. And Natasha, I think probably at times felt like she was banging her head against the wall with me with my sickness and training. And so it was like, if it's one thing that I can do to pass on to everybody else to like not do like what I did, then it's super helpful. So anyway, just talking about training when you're not feeling well. We have lots of big races coming up. It is high allergy season. Those people with kids at home, they're bringing home all sorts of fun things right now. So I just feel like I'm hearing a lot from my own athletes that allergies are definitely kicking in and turning into other things. And so basically, so we've talked about this in the past before, but when you start to feel under the weather, like we do everything we can to prevent it, eating healthy, getting rest, but because of the amount, kind of like what McKenzie was talking about, that stress that you're putting on your body, it also messes with your immune system as well. So after a big build, you might have a better chance of getting sick. So if you start feeling bad, the first thing I tell my athletes is if they've gone to the doctor, what does the doctor say about training? Because we're going to listen to them. And also talking to your coach, like let them know that was one thing I was not good about communication when I did not feel well. And I just kept powering through and it was not a good thing. So biggest things are listen to the doctor, talk to your coach all the way through. So what we say at NVDM is what we believe is it's like above the neck or below the neck. So if it's above the neck, if it's the scratchy throat, if it's a stuffy nose, if it's a headache, you can still do the workout, but less intensity. So maybe back it down to more either bring the watts down, bring the heart rate down, focus in on just a VO2 workout on a zone 2 workout instead of the higher intensity. So you can still go through with your training, but just bring the intensity back down. If the illness is below your neck or like a fever, so fever, bronchitis, just a chesty cough, any stomach issues, you call it. Like that's it. You need to take that day off. So that's kind of the rule of thumb is above the neck or below the neck. And then again, talking to your coach and letting them know, this is what I'm dealing with. What are your thoughts about me continuing to go on? I've had this scratchy throat. Can I do it? What does that look like? But pushing through these workouts will definitely amplify the illness, especially if it's below the neck. So just keep that in mind. It's definitely going to be a longer road to recovery if you just keep pushing through, which was my mistake, is I keep pushing through and my recovery was even longer because I pushed too hard when I should have just taken a day and it probably would have taken care of itself. So let's talk about returning to training. So you've listened to your doctor, you've listened to your coach, you've pulled back like you're supposed to, you're starting to feel better. What does it look like to jump back into training? So really you should be symptom-free, especially if it's fever or bronchitis, something below the neck, symptom-free for 24 to 48 hours, which is really hard for us as triathletes. You're feeling better, you want to jump back in, but give your body those extra rest days. Really easing it back in and kind of using the first 2 to 3 days as test days. How are you feeling? How is your body responding? The fatigue that you're carrying, expect to see a higher heart rate. Even if you're doing low heart rate workouts, your body's in recovery, that heart rate might be a little bit higher. That's normal. It's just something that we'd keep an eye on. Again, constant communication with your coach through all this as well. When you're talking to your coach and you're talking about missed workouts, they will decide if you've missed a key workout, we might need to postpone it or do it another time. And there's some workouts that we're just going to let go. Like if you were sick on that day, we're just not going to go back and do those. So trust that process of how close you are to race day and those key workouts with getting them rescheduled to another time or just letting them go and being okay with letting it go. The fitness is still there. Again, that's just good communication with your coach as you come through recovery. So really the biggest thing is listening to your body, not pushing too hard and not trying to make up for missed workouts on your own as you come through recovery, eating really healthy and continuing to get that sleep. And again, don't do what I did. I pushed through and my recovery was twice as long and I was missing all those really good workouts. So listen to your body and listen to your coach and listen to the doctor. That's it.
Perfect. And this almost happens all the time is once someone has recovered, they've come back to training, they've taken that little bit of a break after training really hard, they actually do really, really well. You think you've lost this fitness, but really what you've also done is you haven't lost fitness, you've just freshened up and now you're healthy again. And like Katie, she just came back and started really crushing workouts, but that was because she was coming off a big Ironman build. She was we're almost at taper. She was due for some rest. And so she came back and she crushed kind of that sharpening period of her training. So yeah.
And then, Natasha, with that, just to add on real quick, what Dre and I do too, because obviously, with sickness and allergies, the one thing that Dre and I always do is we make sure to have like 3 or 4 COVID tests just sitting in our pantry or whatever the heck we call it. Not pantry, what is it? Our medicine cabinet. The reason being is because so many symptoms could be COVID and you just never know. And so usually we treat coming back from COVID just a little bit differently. We give ourselves like probably a little bit more time or a little bit leeway. So it's always good to just cross those variables off. So if you have that test, it's just great to recognize whether or not it's that or allergies. So it kind of helps you dictate which path to go to. So my advice would just be go grab 1 or 2 tests and just have it sit there. So if you ever feel something, swipe your nose, figure it out, and then you can kind of go forward exactly what everyone said there. So
awesome. And then did you guys have anything to add for today on, first of all, congrats to Dre and Keeghan, BPN marathon today. Dre won the female marathon, so she reset her course record. And then Keeghan was second behind Coach Charlie, who you're all going to hear from today. So congrats, you guys. Was there anything else you wanted to add to tonight's call, or it's up to you?
Not off the top of my head. I'll kind of add in if one of people's topics, if that's all right. But
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Okay, on to the next coach. Coach Charlie, did you have anything for us today?
Just kind of quick and honestly, I think McKenzie really kind of hit it on the head too, where I was just going to talk about post-race nutrition, just because like stuff that your athletes bring up. Because I got asked about that last week, just on like how you feel for certain runs or certain workouts and like how I feel differently for it and then how I recover off of it. And like I just want to echo again like what McKenzie said with a protein shake. That's my go-to. Like I have the two same things for breakfast every morning. It's like a pre-run, post-run, just a massive smoothie with bananas, blueberries, strawberries, sometimes blackberries, always spinach, like a date to sweeten it up and some protein powder, and usually collagen as well. So that was kind of my topic with McKenzie. Nailed it already. So
Perfect.
That's what I got.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Appreciate that. Yeah, guys, especially on your day-to-day training, if you're training again that day, it's so imperative to fuel right after that first workout, restore glycogen levels, have your energy back up so you can train again later in the day. If you miss that point or miss that part, you're just not going to have a good second session. So thanks for chiming in there, Charlie. Coach Alice, I see you are on the call. Do you have anything for us?
I really don't. I'm sorry.
No problem, guys. If you this weekend, Coach Alice is racing Ironman Texas, so it's the North American Championship race. So we have a lot of people racing, but if you want to track Coach Alice, make sure to do that in the women's pro field. Coach Julz, did you have anything?
I don't.
No, it's okay. I have some more. So any coaches have anything, and then I'm going to go on to one that I feel like we could quickly talk to that I've been addressing with some athletes.
I know I had something
Great.
that I'd like to share quickly. So this was actually something I can't take credit for this. I saw this on Instagram and I actually posted this on my story, and Natasha said, share this on Team Fall Sunday. So here I am sharing it. But it's actually something that I've started. I actually haven't started doing this yet, or as something else definitely I'm going to start doing it because I kind of struggle with that. And this is overdoing your workouts or doing more than what is necessary. And so kind of what this quote was the day before a workout, with a calm self and awareness, write down the intention of the workout to come. You have to do it the day before, because often, as with myself, while you're in your workout, you're feeling great, you're pushing the power, you're pushing the pace, you're feeling amazing. You'll say, why not go an extra 5 or 10 watts? Why not drop the pace another 5 or 10 seconds? And that's when the injuries happen. That's when the overtraining happens. Now, there is a time and place for, going all out, pushing it, but you have to know what the intention of the workout is. And if you're in a taper, then the intention is not to go all out and set new power PRs. And so you really have to make sure, like, the day before the workout, if it's a key workout, and especially like I know there are some workouts where like I have a tendency to overdo a certain few, then really just telling myself the day before, writing it down, this is the power I'm going to hold, this is the pace, this is the speed I'm going to hold, and hold myself to that during the actual workout. Because I've been injured countless number of times, and it's always come after, I set a new PR, or I pushed too hard, or I did a little bit too much. And I think so you may sacrifice that extra 1% for not going, above and beyond, but what you get in return is just more weeks of continued progress, and that compounds on itself. And at the end of the day, you're going to get much farther, and you're going to be much healthier as well if you just hold back a little bit and you know what the intent of each specific workout is, and not pushing it too hard, or on the other hand, pushing it too easy. If you write down the day before, I really need to hit these numbers, and you get into the workout and for some reason you're just having a bad mental day, just look back on that note sheet and say, no, I have to nail this set. It's an important workout, and then it can work both ways. But I think for most of us here, it's overdoing it rather than underdoing it.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing. And Coach Parker's also racing Ironman Texas in 6 days, and you look like you got a race haircut. Let's see it. There you go. It's the shortest I've seen it for a while. So it's race
Arizona.
time.
I've had it since before Arizona, so it's been 5 months.
Very good. Well, thanks for sharing, you guys. So the last thing, we just have 10 more minutes left. We're going to dive into that question I posed, and it was a question of how do you handle pre-race nerve? So hopefully you've all had a moment to think about it. I will start. I have so many answers in that, and so I'll kind of give one, and then we'll go around the room. But it starts now. in preparation. So a big part of having confidence on race day and those nerves being less is being confident in your preparation and just having your mind fixed on exactly how you're going to execute things on race day. And it starts from the very first swim stroke. Like anything, you're public speaking, you're doing anything else. If you can start really well, it usually is going to kind of flow after that. So I put a heavy emphasis on how am I going to start the swim? What is that pace going to be? How do I want to feel specifically? What is my form focus? And if I can nail that and then get into it, the rhythm of it, then I know for the most part, it's going to be a really good day. The other thing is, it's funny to say, but I've had so many race failures, and I feel like all of us have had some failures, not only in races, but in life. And you find that you never stop doing what you love to do anyway. And the people that support you, they're there just to love on you and encourage you. And you got to remember that, they don't think anything other of you if you have a bad day out there. So if you can and it's not going to have you stop the sport. I mean, most of the time you come out of a bad race and you're more motivated because now you know an area that you need to work on, which is it's a blessing that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that and I messed up on here. Now I can be better next time. You really need to look at failures like that because there's so much to the sport. But if you can just remember those things, and then when you're out there, maybe things aren't going your way, just have that kind of positive perspective. A lot of the times you could turn your day around as well through it. But when your family sees you, all they want to see that you're smiling and you're having a great time and they're proud of you no matter what. And so if you can portray that, and when you're done with the race, be really thankful that they're there. This is a big deal. Don't know if you've ever been on the spectating side of it and how hard it is, but they're just excited, like no matter how you did. And so coming across the finish line with a smile, like they're going to be pumped for you. So remember that when you're out there and you're nervous. Okay. Anyone else want to add to that? Pre-race nerves.
I can add to that because it kind of goes off of that. But I'm also someone where I start mentally preparing as soon as taper starts, and I really get in that race mindset. And now for me, I'm someone who is heavily impacted by my environment. And so having a really good environment around me going into the race is super important for me. And so going off of what Natasha said with like family is I try to communicate with whoever's going to be at the race with me, what I'm going to need, what I'm not going to need. So I'm someone I don't like, if people are on top of me right before a race. So I tell my mom, hey, I might just need some space. That's what's going to help me the best. And just having that environment and knowing that my support crew there knows what I need calms my nerves. And then I'm also someone where I am impacted by my own mind. And so something I've talked about it on this call before, but something that I tell myself the day before a race and on race morning is get out of your head and into your body, because there's so much going on up here race morning and the day before a race that it really can screw us up. Like Natasha was saying, where it can really make or break. And so get out of your head and into your body to me is just like, okay, none of this matters up here. How are we feeling? Are we hydrating? Are our muscles refreshed? Are we feeling energized? Did we sleep? And so just tapping more into my body. And so just having that feeling of control of like, okay, I have a really good setup environment around me. I also am in check with my body. Those are just two big things for me that allows me to calm my nerves on race day and just makes things flow a lot better and keep my nerves down. So
awesome. Perfect, Coach Julz. Coach Ashton, I think you're on the call. Want to hear from you if you have anything to add.
Yeah, one thing I would say that I really focus on as it relates to pre-race nerves is thinking through the worst case scenarios and then what is going to be my course of action or what is going to be my resolution if those things do happen. So for instance, on the swim, if you get anxiety, what are you going to focus on? What are you going to do to kind of get your mind back in gear? On the bike, if you drop your nutrition, what is going to be your plan B, and having those things kind of already thought out. Again, hopefully none of those things do happen, but then you kind of have like a way to divert your mind into problem solving mode, because ultimately that's what the entire day is it's problem solving and staying as present as you possibly can. And then same thing for the run. If you start to cramp or if you start to, really suffer as you know, especially in the longer events. What are you going to do to get your body back in check, to get your mind back in check, so that you can kind of stay mentally there, and you've already thought through those things, and you don't have to try to problem solve while you're out there. You kind of just can know, okay, this is where I'm going now. This is my course of action now. And that really kind of helps you not feel like you're so on the fly trying to make decisions. You just automatically know, okay, this is my plan. This is what I need to do in order to get me back on track.
No, that's so important, especially for an Ironman. Honestly, all races, there's so much time. There's so much time out there. We think one little thing happens and the race is over, but no, like if you can problem solve immediately, you can be back on track, and there's so much racing still to happen. And then you always have to keep in mind, especially those going into Ironman Texas, so much can go wrong in a hot race, in where you could be way far back, but everyone else, you don't know what's happening in front of you, and everyone else is cratering as well. And you don't want to be at that finish line going, oh, I wish I'd hung on and just like fix this and got back in the race, because had I done that, I would have moved through the field, because they were all having bad days too. So, and then side note, Ashton had a bike crash yesterday. You're fine. I'm sure people are wondering, but I do want to applaud her. She was like, I'm great. It's going to look very intimidating for everyone else, but like, I feel amazing. And we're a week out from Ironman Texas, so you guys can imagine. But she's been awesome. So I'm glad it's healing up. We'll get there. Okay, guys, we've got 3 more minutes left. Any of the other coaches want to add kind of their pre-race day tips?
Yeah, I'll just quickly, just for race morning, 2 very practical things to do is box breathing. It really does work. Like the Navy SEALs use it, snipers use it. If you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, that actually will calm your nerves, and it's scientifically proven. And then the second is if you can do a little run or get your heart rate up before the event, that also helps. So you're not getting to the water like that cold shock. So just little things on race morning that you can do to just kind of bring that the anxiety down just a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, go one thing, Keeghan, I'm just going to say to the box breathing, in the 2-3 days where your mind is just wrapped up in the race, box breathe there as well. When you're thinking about the race, you can't go to sleep, box breathe there as well. It's very, very effective. Okay, Keeghan, you go.
Yeah, lastly, the one thing too about racing is, remember, if you've done the preparation, usually when you go into a race, you're doing what you already know that you can do. So that should really put the nerves away, that you are confident that you can accomplish whatever goal that you've set out to do. When we get nervous is usually when we're asking more of ourselves, or have an unrealistic goal, or that we haven't done the work. So if you've done the work and you've set the realistic goal based off that work, that's when you should really just be like, I'm here, I've done everything, I'm going to do just fine. And then what a lot of times that happens is when you're in the race, if you have an incredible day, you end up going way past what your realistic goal was. So a lot of times it's managing your expectations and then trying to, do that from there. So if you've done the work and you have that set based off that work, you should be just fine.
And I think just being thankful that you're at the start line. Today at the marathon, there was a girl who is paralyzed and she walked a mile. It took her about 4 hours to walk a mile. And I was at that start line like, oh my gosh, I get to run this. And I think just like reminding yourself, it kind of puts it in a different perspective. Like, I get to do this, like I signed up for this. And someone told me one time, and it sounds really simple and dumb, but at the end of the day, it is swimming, biking, and running. That is all it is. And like they told me that, it's like, wow, that is the best advice someone has ever given me. And it's so simple, because at the end of the day, you're doing what you do every day. So it's also very, very simplified that way.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, you guys. A common phrase on what Keeghan was saying is I always say, just follow the script. And so you guys, we always send you a race script. Fill out the race scripts. Once you do that, your nerves will way calm down, and then you go over it. And on race day, you follow the script and you will perform at the level that you trained at. Okay. Does anyone want to add? We got 1 more minute. Anyone coaches want to jump in?
I mean, I think too, just like snowballing off the way you said in Keeghan too, it's like you've done the work, like you have the, the 8, 12, 16 weeks behind you. So you have that confidence going in, you have your expectations, and you kind of know your range of what you can do. And you can definitely exceed that with a great day. But I think also too, just sticking to, like you said, just your routine where you've done it. Also snowball off that, where it's like, as soon as you wake up, whether it's your coffee, your breakfast, I mean, even for me this morning, it was bread, nut butter. I'll just classic what I do every single morning for, most races or most runs. So it's like you wake up to, the start. So just be in that routine. That way, you know exactly what to do.
Perfect. Awesome, Charlie. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, it's our time. We will have a call next Sunday, even though we'll be coming back from Texas. Texas is Saturday, so we'll be back for the call. One thing I actually wrote down that I think some of us are having after Texas 70.3 might have after Ironman Texas is post-race depression. You have that high, now you're coming off it. How do you best attack that? And so I'm going to speak to that. And if any of the coaches kind of want to share some of your tips on dealing with the emotions post-race, that's going to be a topic for next week for us. Okay. You guys have a great week. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of cookies help. Okay.